Can a mother's love save a son, or quietly destroy him? Some movie mothers protect, sacrifice, and inspire their sons to survive impossible odds. Others leave wounds so deep they shape a man's entire life. In this list, we're counting down 20 unforgettable mother-son movies that reveal the beautiful, painful, and sometimes terrifying power of that bond. And by number 1, you may see motherhood in cinema very differently. Number 20. Like Stars on Earth, 2007. Some mothers love their children so deeply that their pain becomes silent before anyone hears it. Like Stars on Earth is not just about a boy struggling in school. It is about a family failing to understand that struggle until the damage is already visible. Ishan is imaginative, sensitive, and drowning in a world that keeps calling him careless. His mother watches him fall apart piece by piece, but like many parents, she mistakes the problem for disobedience before realizing it is something much deeper. That emotional helplessness is what makes the mother-son angle so powerful. She is not cruel. She is scared, confused, and trapped inside a system that measures children by marks instead of minds. When the truth about Ishan's dyslexia begins to unfold, the film turns into a quiet indictment of every home where a child's pain is misread as failure. The mother's heartbreak becomes the audience's heartbreak, and that is why this film still hits hard. It reminds us that love is not enough unless it learns how to listen. Number 19. The Fabelmans, 2022. The most dangerous gift a mother gives her son may be the permission to dream too loudly. The Fabelmans turned Steven Spielberg's childhood memories into a tender, complicated portrait of artistic awakening. And at the center of it is a mother who does not simply support creativity. She infects the household with it. Mitzi is warm, impulsive, musical, emotionally unpredictable, and unforgettable. To young Sammy, she is not just his mother, she is the first spark behind his obsession with images, performance, and storytelling. But the film becomes richer because that inspiration comes with emotional instability. Sammy's camera does not only capture fantasy, it eventually captures truth, and truth becomes painful. The mother-son relationship here is not clean or easy. It is full of admiration, confusion, betrayal, tenderness, and artistic inheritance. Sammy learns that the person who gave him his imagination is also someone he cannot fully protect or understand. That makes The Fabelmans more than a filmmaker origin story. It is about realizing your mother is human, and still loving her through the fracture. Number 18. The Blind Side, 2009. Sometimes motherhood does not begin with birth. Sometimes it begins with someone refusing to look away. The Blind Side builds its emotional power around Leanne Toohey, a strong-willed woman who sees Michael Oher not as a charity case, but as a young man who has been overlooked for far too long. Their bond is not a traditional mother-son relationship at first. It begins with suspicion, discomfort, and social distance. But the film slowly transforms that distance into trust. Leanne becomes a protector, advocate, and emotional anchor, pushing Michael towards safety, school, football, and self-worth. What makes the relationship memorable is the way she refuses to let the world define him by his silence or his past. The movie has been debated over the years, but as a cinematic portrait of chosen family, it remains emotionally effective. Its strongest idea is simple. A mother figure can change a life not by saving someone dramatically, but by standing beside them when everyone else has already walked past. Number 17. Lion, 2016. Few stories understand that a son can belong to two mothers and still feel lost between them. Lion is devastating because it turns memory into a wound that never fully closes. Saru is separated from his biological mother as a child and later adopted by Sue, a woman who gives him safety, love, and a future. But as he grows older, the ghost of his first home begins pulling him back. The beauty of the film is that it never turns one mother into a replacement for the other. Instead, it shows how complicated love becomes when gratitude and longing exist in the same heart. Saru loves his adoptive mother deeply, yet the need to find his birth mother becomes almost unbearable. That emotional tension gives the film its lasting power. It asks a painful question. Can a son move forward if a part of him is still waiting somewhere in the past? By the end, Lion becomes a tribute to both mothers, the one who lost him and the one who raised him. Number 16. Boyhood, 2014. The quietest mother-son stories are sometimes the ones that feel most real. Boyhood does not rely on dramatic speeches or huge emotional confrontations. Instead, it watches life accumulate slowly. School mornings, awkward conversations, moving homes, broken relationships, financial stress, and the invisible exhaustion of being a parent. Patricia Arquette's Olivia is one of cinema's most grounded portraits of motherhood because she is loving, flawed, frustrated, ambitious, and tired all at once. Her son Mason grows up almost casually before our eyes, but underneath that calm structure is a painful truth. Mothers often spend years building a child's future while their own lives keep changing behind the scenes. The college send-off lands so strongly because it feels painfully ordinary. Olivia suddenly realizes that the years she fought through are gone. Her son is leaving, and the purpose that kept her moving is shifting. Boyhood understands that motherhood is not one grand sacrifice. It is thousands of small sacrifices that only become visible when the child finally walks away. Number 15. Forrest Gump, 1994. Before Forrest Gump became part of American movie legend, he was simply a boy whose mother refused to let the world shrink him. Forrest Gump works because its mother-son bond is built on radical belief. Mrs. Gump knows her son is different, but she never allows difference to become a cage. Instead of treating Forrest as weak, she arms him with simple, unforgettable wisdom that carries him through childhood cruelty, war, love, loss, fame, and loneliness. Her presence shapes the entire movie even when she is not on screen. Every lesson she gives him becomes a survival tool. What makes the relationship so moving is that Forrest's innocence does not come from ignorance. It comes from being loved fiercely enough to face the world without bitterness. Mrs. Gump gives him confidence before anyone else thinks he deserves it. That is why her role feels bigger than screen time. She is the emotional foundation of the film. Forrest runs, fights, loves, and survives because his mother first taught him he was enough. Number 14. Jojo Rabbit, 2019. A mother can fight a war without carrying a weapon, and Jojo Rabbit proves it with heartbreaking precision. Rosie is one of the film's emotional secrets, playful on the surface, brave underneath, and quietly resisting a world that is poisoning her young son's mind. Jojo begins the story trapped inside childish propaganda, desperate to belong to something ugly because he does not yet understand it. Rosie's mission is not to shame him, but to gently pull his heart back toward kindness. Their mother-son scenes are tender, funny, and deeply sad because she knows the stakes are much larger than childhood rebellion. She is trying to save his soul in a society built on fear. The film's humor makes the emotional moments hit even harder, because Rosie's warmth becomes a shield against darkness. Her love is not soft in a weak way. It is courageous. Jojo Rabbit reminds us that motherhood can be resistance, and sometimes the most powerful lesson a mother gives is teaching her son not to hate. Number 13. The Sixth Sense, 1999. The real ghost story in The Sixth Sense is not just about the dead. It is about a mother losing access to her living child. Lynn Sear loves Cole fiercely, but she cannot understand the terror that follows him everywhere. He is withdrawn, frightened, strange, and carrying a secret too heavy for a child. Their relationship gives the film its emotional core, because behind the famous twist is a very human fear. What happens when a mother knows her son is suffering, but cannot reach the place where it hurts? Toni Collette's performance makes Lynn feel exhausted and devoted at the same time. She is not a perfect mother, but she is present, protective, and desperate to believe her child even when the world might call him troubled. The car scene, where Cole finally reveals what he knows, remains unforgettable because it turns supernatural fear into emotional release. The Sixth Sense endures because its most powerful moment is not a scare. It is a mother finally understanding her son. Number 12. Changeling, 2008. Some films show a mother's love as warmth. Changeling shows it as refusal. Christine Collins becomes one of cinema's most haunting maternal figures because she is placed in an impossible nightmare. Her son disappears, and when authorities claim they have found him, She knows the boy returned to her is not her child. The horror of the film comes from how easily powerful institutions dismiss a mother's certainty. Christine is treated as emotional, unstable, and inconvenient simply because she refuses to accept a lie. That makes the mother-son relationship devastating, even though her son is absent for much of the story. His absence controls every scene. Every step she takes is driven by memory, instinct, and a love that will not be silenced. Angelina Jolie's performance gives the film a trembling intensity, but the real force is the story's moral outrage. Changeling asks a brutal question. How far should a mother go when the world tells her to stop searching? Christine's answer is simple: farther. Number 11. Room, 2015. Room is one of the rare films where a mother does not just protect her son from danger. She builds an entire universe to keep his spirit alive. Joy and Jack live inside a confined space, but she transforms that prison into a childhood filled with stories, routines, games, and tenderness. That is what makes the film so emotionally overwhelming. Joy is not only surviving trauma, she is parenting through it. She gives Jack language, imagination, safety, and love under circumstances that should have destroyed both of them. The mother-son bond becomes the engine of survival. When the world finally opens up, the film becomes even more complex, because freedom is not instantly healing. Jack must learn reality, and Joy must face the cost of everything she endured. Their relationship is beautiful, but it is also heavy with pain. Room stays with viewers because it shows motherhood at its most impossible, creating light where there is almost none, and giving a child wonder in a place built to erase it. Number 10. Terminator 2, Judgment Day, 1991. Beneath the explosions, machines, and apocalypse, Terminator 2 is really about a mother who has been punished for trying to save her son's future. Sarah Connor is not the gentle movie mother audiences expect. She is hardened, paranoid, muscular, damaged, and terrifyingly focused. But that is exactly what makes her unforgettable. She knows something no one else wants to believe. Her son John is not just a boy, but the key to humanity's survival. Her love has been twisted by fear into discipline, preparation, and obsession. Yet the film never lets us forget the pain behind her strength. Sarah has lost the luxury of normal motherhood. She cannot simply comfort John, she must train him. She cannot simply protect him from bullies or heartbreak. She must prepare him for the end of the world. That emotional pressure gives the action real weight. Terminator 2 became a sci-fi landmark for many reasons, but its human core is Sarah Connor, a mother turned warrior because love left her no other choice. Number 9. Anatomy of a Fall, 2023. Sometimes the most painful mother-son story begins when a child is forced to judge his own parent. Anatomy of a Fall turns a courtroom mystery into something far more intimate. A boy standing between love, doubt, memory, and truth. Sandra is accused after her husband's fatal fall, but the emotional weight of the film lands heavily on her visually impaired son, Daniel. He is not just a witness. He becomes the fragile center of a family collapse, listening as private arguments, resentments, and ugly secrets are exposed in public. The mother-son relationship here is tense because Daniel must decide how much of his mother he truly understands. Is she distant, misunderstood, guilty, innocent, selfish, protective, or all of these at once? That uncertainty makes the film so gripping. Sandra does not fit the easy image of a warm, cinematic mother, and that is the point. She is complicated, intellectual, emotionally guarded, and painfully human. Daniel's struggle becomes the audience's struggle. Can a child love a parent while questioning them? Anatomy of a Fall is unforgettable because it shows motherhood not as perfection, but as something examined under the harshest light possible. Number 8. The Shining, 1980. The Overlook Hotel is terrifying, but the real fear is watching a mother realize her home has become a trap. The Shining is often remembered for Jack Torrance's madness, the haunted corridors, and the chilling atmosphere. But Wendy and Danny's bond gives the horror its emotional pulse. Danny is vulnerable, gifted, and trapped inside a place that feeds on fear. Wendy begins as someone trying to hold her family together, even while the cracks are obvious. What makes her journey powerful is how slowly hope turns into survival. She wants to believe things will improve. She wants to believe Jack is still reachable. But when danger becomes undeniable, her motherly instinct sharpens into action. The film's terror works because Danny is not just a child in danger. He is a son whose mother must finally choose protection over denial. Wendy's fear is messy, frantic, and human, which makes it more believable. She is not an action hero. She is a terrified mother who keeps moving anyway. The Shining endures because beneath the supernatural nightmare is a brutally simple truth. When a father becomes the threat, the mother becomes the last defense. Number 7. Hereditary, 2018. Some mother-son relationships do not break suddenly. They rot quietly under grief, guilt, and things nobody dares to say. Hereditary is one of the darkest portraits of family trauma in modern horror because it turns motherhood into a haunted inheritance. Annie's relationship with her son Peter is loaded with discomfort long before the film becomes openly terrifying. There is love there, but it is tangled with resentment, shock, blame, and emotional damage that neither of them knows how to repair. After tragedy strikes, the space between mother and son becomes unbearable. Dinner table tension feels more frightening than any supernatural image because it exposes the kind of family pain people usually bury. Annie's grief does not make her gentle, it makes her volatile. Peter's fear does not make him innocent in a simple way. It makes him trapped inside consequences he can barely process. That is why Hereditary works so deeply. The horror is not only in demons or rituals. It is in the possibility that a family can pass pain down like blood. By the end, the mother-son bond feels less like comfort and more like a curse. Number 6. Joker, 2019. A son can survive poverty, rejection, and loneliness, but a poisoned truth about his mother can destroy the last piece of him. Joker builds Arthur Fleck's collapse around isolation, humiliation, and mental instability. But his relationship with his mother, Penny, is one of the most unsettling parts of the story. At first, she appears to be his only emotional connection, fragile, dependent, and clinging to old dreams. Arthur cares for her, bathes her, feeds her, and lives inside the tiny world they share. But that bond is not healing him. It is keeping him trapped inside delusion, secrecy, and unresolved pain. As Arthur learns more about his past, the mother-son relationship shifts from sad to disturbing. The person he thought gave him identity becomes linked to confusion, betrayal, and trauma. The film is controversial because it asks viewers to sit inside a mind losing its grip. But the maternal angle gives that breakdown a tragic intimacy. Joker is not a simple story of a bad man becoming worse. It is about a son discovering that even his safest memory may have been built on a lie. Number 5. We Need to Talk About Kevin, 2011. This is the mother-son movie that dares to ask the question most films are afraid to touch. What if love never arrives naturally? We Need to Talk About Kevin is cold, disturbing, and emotionally brutal because it refuses to soften the relationship between Eva and her son Kevin. From the beginning, their bond feels strained, unnatural, almost like a silent war inside the home. Eva is not presented as a simple victim or a simple bad mother. Kevin is not explained away with easy answers. That ambiguity is what makes the film so haunting. Was something wrong from the start? Did Eva's resentment shape him? Did Kevin sense her emotional distance and weaponize it? The film never gives the comfort of certainty. Instead, it traps the audience inside guilt, memory, blame, and dread. Tilda Swinton's performance makes Eva feel hollowed out by motherhood and by the aftermath of what Kevin becomes. Their relationship is terrifying because it removes the sentimental fantasy that every mother-child bond is automatically warm. We Need to Talk About Kevin stays with viewers because it turns motherhood into a psychological crime scene where nobody escapes clean. Number 4. Psycho, 1960. Before cinema had modern psychological horror, Psycho gave audiences a mother-son relationship so twisted it became part of film history. Norman Bates is polite, nervous, lonely, and strangely childlike, but the shadow of his mother controls every corner of his life. The genius of Psycho is that Mrs. Bates is both absent and everywhere. Her presence dominates the house, the motel, Norman's voice, his guilt, and his identity. This is not a normal bond pushed too far. It is dependency turned into madness. Alfred Hitchcock understood that the most frightening prison can be emotional. Norman is trapped by a mother he cannot release and a self he cannot fully become. The film shocked audiences not just because of violence, but because it revealed horror inside domestic attachment. The mother-son relationship becomes a symbol of control, repression, and psychological collapse. Every time Norman speaks of his mother, the viewer feels something deeply wrong underneath his careful manners. Psycho remains iconic because it does not simply frighten us with a killer. It frightens us with the idea that love, guilt, and identity can become so fused that a person disappears inside them. Number 3. Dune, 2021. In Dune, motherhood is not soft background emotion. It is strategy, prophecy, training, and survival. Lady Jessica's relationship with Paul Atreides is one of the most fascinating mother-son bonds in modern science fiction because she is both protector and architect of his destiny. She loves Paul as her son, but she also trains him in the dangerous mental discipline of the Bene Gesserit. That makes their bond unusually complex. Jessica is nurturing him, but she is also shaping him into something powerful, possibly uncontrollable. When House Atreides falls and the desert becomes their only path forward, Jessica and Paul are forced into a brutal new reality. Their relationship shifts from royal family intimacy to survival partnership. She must guide him while fearing what he may become. Paul must trust her while realizing she has kept secrets that altered his entire life. That tension gives Dune its emotional depth beneath the spectacle. The sandworms, battles, and politics are huge, but the mother-son story is quietly explosive. Lady Jessica is not simply raising a son. She is standing beside a future that may save people, ruin people, or consume them all. Number 2. Moonlight, 2016. Some mother-son wounds do not scream. They sit quietly in a room years later, waiting for one honest apology. Moonlight is a delicate, painful portrait of Chiron's life, and his relationship with his mother Paula is one of its deepest emotional injuries. As a child, Chiron needs softness, safety, and guidance. But Paula's addiction pulls her away from him again and again. Her love exists, but it is buried under dependency, anger, absence, and shame. That makes the relationship heartbreaking rather than simple. Paula is not a cartoon villain. She is a damaged mother whose failures shape her son's silence. Chiron grows up learning to hide pain because the person who should protect him is often part of the pain. The film's power comes from restraint. It does not over-explain. It lets glances, pauses, and old wounds carry the weight. When Paula later confronts what she did to him, the moment hurts because it arrives after so much damage has already been done. Moonlight is unforgettable because it understands that a son can outgrow a childhood home and still carry his mother's absence inside his body. Number 1. Mommy, 2014. Few films make motherly love feel this explosive, this exhausting, and this impossible to survive. Mommy is not a gentle portrait of a mother and son. It is a storm. Diane is a widowed mother trying to raise Steve, her troubled teenage son, whose energy, rage, charm, and instability make every day feel unpredictable. Their bond is full of screaming, laughter, tenderness, fear, and emotional danger. That is what makes the film so gripping. Love is never in question, but love alone is never enough. Diane wants to save him, protect him, discipline him, forgive him, and hold on to him all at once. Steve wants freedom, affection, control, and security, but he often destroys the very safety he needs. Xavier Dolan films their relationship with raw intensity, making the audience feel trapped inside their emotional highs and crashes. The movie's heartbreak comes from watching a mother face the cruel limit of devotion. How much can a parent sacrifice before love turns into self-destruction? Mommy earns the #1 spot because it captures the terrifying truth behind many mother-son stories. Sometimes, the strongest bond is also the one that hurts the most. Mother-son movies remind us that love is never simple. Sometimes it protects, sometimes it wounds, and sometimes it shapes an entire life without anyone noticing. From gentle sacrifice to terrifying obsession, these films prove one thing: the bond between a mother and son can build a hero, break a soul, or leave a scar cinema never forgets.